The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. My next guest is a business breakthrough specialist, successful entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author. Tragic events that affected Dr. Phillip Agrios' personal and professional life sparked him on a quest to understand human behavior to its core. He works with business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives worldwide to achieve even greater success in business and in life. He has personally mentored Jack Canfield, Steve Harrison, and Bill Walsh. He has discovered a hidden inborn trait that stops you from achieving the success you want and has uncovered a surefire way to switch it off immediately for massive success. Please join me in welcome to Dr. Phillip Agrios.
Hi, Sue. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. I took your little quiz. We'll talk about it later, but it was very revealing. And I'm fascinated to hear your story and how you came up with this, because that is a hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
We hinted some stuff in the bio, but for those of my viewers and listeners who have no clue what the hero's journey is, so a gentleman by the name of Joseph Campbell came up with a pattern of stories that have occurred all over the world, and we still have them today. And it's called the hero's journey. And he actually identified 16 different points along the journey that are common to all of these stories. I'm not doing all 16.
All right, fine. All right, we'll just do one or two.
That's a deep dive.
I know, right?
Right.
I'll get my couch. We'll just lay down a little bit.
Right. We're only going to do 5. And the 5 that we're going to talk about today, I call the origin story pattern. And this is the ordinary beginning, which is never ordinary. The call to action, what brought Dr. Phillip to this point and what was there. And the big hairy monsters, which are usually conflated with the call to action. Not always, but sometimes they are. And 2 things that I think are really important for entrepreneurs, and one of the driving forces for me doing this interview series. There are 2 things that all entrepreneurs need and get to experience. And if they don't use them, they're usually not terribly successful. And the first of those is allies, guides, mentors, coaches, wind beneath the wings, people who are there for you, cheerleading, supporting, maybe a slight 2x4 to the head. It's a guidance structure. And then the entrepreneurs seem to experience what Joseph Campbell calls the journey home, much more than most people get to experience. And the journey home is when the hero has gone off and had these wonderful adventures and done their things and played with the big hairy monsters and discovered new ways of being. Not everybody at home has had that experience. Not everybody understands what in the world is going on here. And so they tend to have more of a puzzled reaction. Sometimes they're supportive, and sometimes the classic question, when are you going to get a real job, comes up.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's one of my favorite parts, because I love hearing how entrepreneurs get to deal with that. So, Phil, what was your ordinary beginning?
Well, I remember waking up one evening, dead silence, pitch dark. I was up. You ever have that where like someone infused 10 Red Bulls in you and you can like not only clean your house once in an hour, but twice, right? So I'm like, I'm up. I'm also just go and do some work. So I went into my study and I was looking through something from my drawers and I came across my old goals from 5 years prior. Have you ever had that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was all excited. I'm like, yeah, I was sitting up and I was reading each one. And by the time I got to the last one, I didn't achieve one damn thing on that list. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was listening to all the big gurus, right? I had all their cassette tape programs, right? Remember cassette tapes? And I just sat there and after, something about dead silence, I kind of go deep into that end of it. And I started feeling disgusted and really upset with myself. And then something after a while just said, you're not being taught something. And I found myself on this journey. And during the process of going through things, I went through some stuff. Now, if you're going to proclaim yourself as an expert in self-sabotage, you better have gone through some stuff and not just some book stuff, right? Yeah. So it all started with a false accusation from an insurance company. I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during the process, the three things were going to happen. I was going to jail for fraud. I was going to lose my license, and I had to pay back 3 times of what they gave me. And of course, other insurance companies hopped on too as well. And during the process, my father was diagnosed with brain cancer, and 7 months later, he passed. And then during this process, I became now the health care provider of my ailing mom, who then passed 7 years later. During the process, because the distress was so big that I actually lost my practice. I was on disability. I was told I would never practice again. So I had to shut down my practice. And during this process, I was totally innocent. I don't have a speck on my license. But during this process, many things happened and really caused a lot of problems. And it allowed me to really dive deeply into a particular discovery I made a couple of decades prior, and it forced me to start looking at it. And during this whole process, I went through financial ruin. 2008 was great. I had a horrific divorce that caused more problems. One of my daughters almost committed suicide. They said that if my ex came home 10 minutes later, she would have been dead. And I can keep on going, but we don't have that much time.
Isn't there like the stress survey, Hans, somebody or another has, you ticked off every single box.
Yeah, and I can keep on going, but exactly. So during the process, what I realized that, like I said, you have to go through some stuff. And that's why I really didn't have any mentors. It was really diving deep in and having the universe as guiding me in all my experiences in that way. And what happened was during the process, I was able to discover a protective trait that we're born with, and I call it the inborn sabotaging trait. It doesn't undermine us, but it actually protects us from the success that we seek, because that success subconsciously is more painful than us staying in our ineffective behavior. And when I first found it, I didn't believe it. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over 30 years of thousands and thousands of people, I couldn't. And during the process, I was able to find a way to switch it off instantly, and it worked 100% of the time.
Wow. So there was your call to action, and quite the collection, nearly a zoo full of big monsters.
Yes. It was I call it an interesting experience. And I have no regret, because it allowed me to be standing here in front of you and talking to your audience and found what I found. So I have no regret. Right. This is one of the things that I find, that if you do come out of those dark places of the soul, dark nights of the soul,
usually you come out going, God, that really sucked. And I'm so glad I went through that.
Exactly. And would you do it again? Yeah.
I'd rather
Don't
not.
want to.
Rather not. You know, if the universe needs me to do that again, can we take a shortcut?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll avoid that. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So have you since then been able to find allies and mentors that have helped you along the path?
Well, yeah, a couple of people here and there that allowed me to kind of focus. I remember about 5-6 years ago, because I was just hitting where I wasn't hitting the millions of people that I know that I was supposed to hit. And I almost destroyed everything. I almost burned all my paper for 30 years, almost wiped out my entire computer. And my friend happened to call me that day and talk to me out of it. So during the process, I just said, if I have to die before my discovery is found, then I'm okay with that. And I let that go. So during the process, I've had a couple of people, nothing major, no major mentors, but more me mentoring other people and focusing and utilizing my work, which there's nothing like it in the world. No one has this, and that's why it's something unique. And that's why even top people like Bill and Bill Walsh and stuff I'm really curious of what I was having. And I remember Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh is one of the top business coaches in the world. Yes. And he heard me speak. And when he came to me, I gave him his inborn sabotage and trait and antidote. And within an hour, he was on stage using his antidote and said, wow, that was so powerful. So people like Bill and Jack and all those, they really see that they need to always be in the cutting edge. So that's where my journey comes into play. It's giving people something that they don't know anything about, that actually exists there.
Right. So besides yourself, because you, pardon me saying so, but you seem to be your biggest critic as well as your promoter.
Oh yeah.
But
yep.
That's true for a lot of us entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. We believe in ourselves, and yet we're constantly going, oh my God, I could do better. This is sucky. And then somebody comes along and validates, and we get to go forward again.
Right.
Was there anybody who was in your life that was completely baffled by what it was that you were doing?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. You got this, yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. And, it's like one of those where you need to go out away from people that don't know you. So they now believe you, what you have. But then again, it wasn't about belief. It was about actually proving. I actually guarantee my results. When people take my 5 online, my courses, online courses, or doing a one-on-one, I always guarantee it. So what happened was, as I was working with chronically ill people, because I was chronically ill myself. I got myself back practicing after I was on disability. And so it drove me to working with the sick of the sickest. And I had very high success rates, not because only I was doing blood working, changing their supplementation and diets and all that stuff. It was actually, I was showing them why health was more painful to achieve than staying in their disease state. That when they started to go into and doing the things they shouldn't have done, it was their inborn sabotage trait doing that. And once they used their antidote, it shifted. And then as I was working with these people, my business owners who were my patients were also making major breakthroughs in their business. So I never thought about using this in business. So after a few years working with people and, referrals, I wrote my book. And then after a few years later, I decided to close my practice and do this full time.
Nice. So let's talk about how you might help someone. So for instance, when I took your quiz, I believe my self-sabotage was communication, something about communication.
Communicator saboteur. Interesting. Yes. Okay, yeah. So there's 3 inborn sabotage trait. Out of 7-8 billion people, there's only 3. I didn't believe it either. So there's the director saboteur, the supplier saboteur, and the communicator saboteur. So the communicator saboteur is a person who's quiet. They don't express themselves as much, right? They overly process things, and they have a hard time really connecting to people because they rather sit and listen, be more listeners. And then they can go to the extreme and go, you know what, I've had it, you've taken advantage of me, and then explode, or under their breath kind of tell the person they're an idiot, whatever, and then they go back and disconnect, right? So it's either the extremes on that, but mainly more on that end of it. The supplier saboteur is a person who overly gives. They have a hard time saying no. They are taking advantage of because they're always giving. They have a hard time taking because they feel that's selfish instead of self-nourishing. They overly share. And then after a while, people take advantage of them. They can go to the other extreme and say, I've had it, screw you, I'm done. And then after a while, they feel guilty and they go back overly sharing. So they have a tough time going giving and taking. The director saboteur is a person who's scattered all over the place. They'll get 99% done when something, stop and do something more fun because they have little to no knowledge. They freeze. Chaos is their friend. But then they can get to the extreme and get so focused that after, they can go, oh yeah, I'll be out in 3 minutes, and 3 hours later they emerge because they're so delved deeply into here. They have a time distortion. And then after a while, 2 days later, they emerge and go, oh my God, I'm so behind with everything else. And they go to the other extreme and get scattered. So if anybody hears that, they may go, well, I have, it sounds like I have all three. You do, but you have more, that one that's called a saboteur. There's two other traits that create a sequence, but more you use one of those more when you go into old habits and old patterns, and that's that saboteur kicks in. And that's the key to everything. What people don't realize is that the saboteur brings adversity in order for you to evolve. So when you start to release your personal professional power and you start to feel uncomfortable, your communicator saboteur kicks in to protect you. Because there's only two things we do. We protect and we grow. We contract, we take, we give and take. We're vibrational beings. So depending on where you are on the extreme, the antidote, which is the solution I came up with, immediately brings you into a balance. And the antidote is the exact opposite to your saboteur. So when you use your antidote, it's impossible to sabotage your business, your career, and your personal life.
So I'm definitely, once upon a time when I was, I had just finished my first personal development course in LifeSpring. And one of my roommates and best friends said, wow, you're not quite as restful to be around. You actually take part in a conversation now instead of letting the rest of us talk.
Right. Yeah.
So when I saw your quiz, and that ended up being, it was like, yep, check that one. Somebody else even told me that one.
Exactly. So when you actually use your antidote, which is to express yourself and connect, you now become more in the middle, therefore allowing more expression and balance. So there's a better communication coming forward than going to one stream or the other. And it's that simple. I didn't believe it. Like I said, it was like, this is no way. Now, this goes much, much deeper than, of course, when people that do their, when they do the quiz. I mean, it goes, into that each business has its own inborn sabotaging trait and antidote. And I show them how they actually subconsciously sabotage the business. When you don't close, it is the inborn sabotaging trait that actually stops you from closing. So I show people how to increase their closing rates by 86.2%. So, and this goes much, much deeper, but yeah, it gives the point of giving you one thing to focus on, not 10, not 12, one thing.
Nice. So how do people take this quiz?
They can go to SAB quiz. SAB is short for sabotage. So instead of them having to spell out sabotage, it's sabquiz.com. You have 9 questions. In 9 questions, you will now be able to find your inborn sabotage trait and antidote for free. It'll take about a minute, and then you'll get it, and then you'll have the results. And then at the end, you can have a strategy call with me to kind of go deeper into it, have a challenge that you're having, and I'll show you how the antidote can offset that challenge immediately for you. Yeah.
This is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I've seen people do some major shifts in that. And then we'll talk about if they want to go further into my Transcendence 101 course that dives really deep into this and their sequence. Once they know a sequence about them, I can tell them everything about them. I can tell them why they failed, why they succeeded, why they had the relationships they did, why they worked, why they didn't, and never meet them. And then we create one subconscious word that stops all their goals. And we show them how to shift it so that once they don't use that word anymore, they can actually achieve their goals, guaranteed.
If there was, this is a bonus question.
Sure.
If there was one thing about what it is that you do, if there was somebody who showed up on your doorstep or on your email and said, hey, Dr. A, this is what I got. This is what I'm up against. This is, how it is. If the perfect person showed up for you, who would that be? What would they be like?
They would be an entrepreneur, business owner, or someone who is so blocked, or not so blocked, someone who is blocked that they're finding themselves in the same situation, the hamster wheel, going over and over, that no matter what they do, they just can't find to stay successful. And they want to know why they continue being in the situation they're in, because the saboteur is the reason for all your blocks. Mm-hmm. So if you get blocked and you want to know why, how to go get to the next level and the next level, then that would be someone that would want to have a conversation with me.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This is a fun.
Thank you.
I got to tell you folks, the quiz is really easy. You don't have to scratch your head. There's no wrong answers. This is not a test.
No, it's pass or fail. There's not a pass or fail. You don't get a mean email afterwards, No.
It's very nice. It's lovely and supportive, and a video that you get as well. So I encourage you all to take it. The link is, if you're watching this, you can rewind and find the link there. It's going to be in the afternotes. It's going to be in the show notes. So you can always find it. So once again, thank you, Dr. Agrios, for being on the show.
All right. You have a fun one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to my viewers and listeners on the sweet sound of success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action coaching program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.